not a GoPro. What's that one? That looks cool.
It was just like the dash cam.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I see me.
You see?
I can.
Alright, bet. I mean, everything gonna come down to the edit before.
True.
Oh, that motherfucker already on?
That's fancy. Right, it records both sides.
Bet. Make sure that motherfucker recording. This is my first time using it. It's hot. You good on the temp?
I'm good right now. I ain't dying. I'll let you know.
Let's go. Alright, so we just gonna be riding around talking about you. You know,
That's fine.
nothing too serious. You know, maybe something good serious.
Get out.
You never know how shit can go.
Get out.
What was one of the spots though?
Well, obviously this is one. This is where the office is.
Alright, we'll start here then.
Okay.
Alright. Oh shit. Alright, so before we get moving, we'll just sit for a second talk about the office. So, welcome to the $1 Million Meetup.
Thank you.
Now I've been waiting on like to do something with you for a minute. It's like I was talking about when we first like discussed the whole episode and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I definitely would describe you as somebody who I see as like, if not already a mogul, like definitely on your way to being there.
Right.
So everybody know what you do on the media front. You know, you big into CBD now, and you queen of branding is how I would describe it. And we sitting out here in front of your office at this point. So
Yep.
I mean, just give us a little bit of background into, you know, Natalie, you know, who you are and like how we got to this point.
So how we got to this point was I had been, for one, searching for an office space that was in the city, in the area where I actually grew up at. And I think that is the most important. And as we see throughout this video, it'll be areas in Inglewood, in Chicago, where I really finally found a space that was just perfect in the heart of Inglewood. So Studio 62 is currently right now where I house both of my businesses that need office spacing. And so we got here based off going to one office space that just was not supporting me the way that I wanted to. And in doing so, I found through a client this space here. So about this space and why it was so important for me was I used to be on the north side of Chicago, over by Belmont Cragen, which is literally so far up north. And so at Belmont Cragen, everybody was just complaining, like telling me it was too far for them. And the reason why they picked me as an artist or a graphic artist at the time was because, I was in the city and I was from the city, and you know, they wanted somebody to really embody what they did. And I was just like, wow, like, let me move, because if I'm losing clientele because they want me to talk about or be in the area and where they're at and really hone into that, then let me do that. So it took a year for me to realize that in order to service the people that I wanted, in order to be around the people that I was trying to show that we can do it, I have to be around them. And so to show that good does come out of Inglewood, I specifically placed my office in Inglewood, the heart of it, where it actually starts. And so with that, you have High Organics, which is a black-owned CBD business in the heart of Inglewood as well. So we are, as they say, from you, by you, and stay by you. So that's really really important because I just don't want to be one of those businesses where we get so big, we grow so much that we don't come back to where we're from.
Yeah.
And I get to still see my people. I get to still see what's missing, what we can work on, where they're meeting us at. And we get a lot of great reviews because we're either right close to where they are to do local pickup, or my clients are so happy that I'm right next to the expressway, which is one of the top expressways that's here in Chicago because it's a few away from downtown, and so some of them are, up north, out west, or whatever, and so just to be a hop, skip, and a jump away, literally 2 seconds away from the expressway, is really, really helpful for them. So Studio 62 was one of those places that I just knew is going to have to be home for us. We're going to have to grow this one into something because I really love the space, and I knew that bringing it back to my community was so much bigger than me.
Yeah, and I feel like that's been consistent since the time I've known you. It's like always about the community. So in addition to being like a businesswoman and a business builder, it's like you're a community builder too.
Yeah.
And that's something like you say, your clients respect about you, and like we all can respect about you, but you speak so like heavily and passionate about Inglewood. Like, what does Inglewood mean to you? Like, what does being from Inglewood mean to you?
Man, Inglewood is home. I mean, I grew up in Inglewood, West Inglewood to be exact, which is close by Western Avenue.
Yeah.
But all of my friends was in Inglewood. My school was in Inglewood.
What school you go to?
I went to John Hope for high school.
Yeah.
So, all of my friends were from Inglewood or from the low end, from, over east, stuff like that. But where I would do all of my dirty work as a teen was in Inglewood on 79th, 63rd, taking the green line, taking the red line, like all of these things that make me who I am. And there's nothing wrong with Inglewood. I mean, we do have a negative rep because of what we've been given as a people, and that's all we see is destruction. So, of course, that's all we're known to do. But at the end of the day, you have Inglewood branded, that's on 63rd in Ashland. You have so many other amazing and great businesses that is in Inglewood that embodies exactly what Inglewood is. We are a community of people who love where we're from so much that we protect it so heavily.
Yeah.
So heavily that we don't want anybody coming in and saying that they're from Inglewood if they're not from Inglewood. Like, we'll ask you about your address, oh, that ain't Inglewood, that's such and such, it means a lot to us. And for one, I actually had on an Inglewood branded shirt yesterday. But I love that brand so much because, my motto is there's good that come out of Inglewood, and I probably gonna continue to hear me say that because it is. There's so many great people that come out of our neighborhood, that come out of Chicago in general, that we don't really hone in on that. We don't really respect that. We just think of, oh, okay, that person just made it out. No, like, how hard it is to make it out of that situation. My knucklehead friends that I had that still are starting to get their stuff together, it's not an easy task to do that. So I think what Inglewood means to me is, like I said, that's home. That's always going to be home. I'm still currently living in Inglewood. I can live wherever I choose to. I can live wherever I want to be, but I know what I'm working on. I know what that means to me, and I know just letting people know, oh, I live in Inglewood. Like, I don't care. I look at Inglewood like it's downtown.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love being able to see the fashion. I love being able to see the businesses. I love being able to still see the people that was there years before then, the currency exchanges, the things that you just don't find in the inner city that you need, the good food, like, man, so many great places to eat, little hole in the walls that you go to. I love being able to always the best spots. I love being able to be an adult and show my son where I grew up at and where I, played around at, where my friends at. Lucky to see these buildings that are still there, to where I remember my mom drove up and spanked me right here, like that stupid stuff. I'm able to still do that. Or I remember ditching school and going over to this place. You know, I love being able to do that. So I think for me, Inglewood just means home.
Yeah, I could feel that. And a lot of the situations that you mentioned that happen around like the cities that give it a bad rep, like it's all systemic, like you said, and it's not easy to kind of break away from those cycles and shit. So, like you being able to do so, just like more props to you, like super kudos for that. So, and you mentioned Inglewood branded, the brother that owns that like storefront, Corey, amazing dude. I met him a few years ago.
Yeah.
Just like through a mutual friend, and like he's a good dude. So
yeah, I have Corey on speed dial.
Yeah.
He puts together some amazing events for Inglewood,
for the
youth, and that just speaks volumes for what we need. And people love that. You know, during the riots and the situations that we had, Corey's spot wasn't touched. You know, that says a lot for what the community, how the community represents you.
Yeah.
And like I said, Inglewood is home for those who are from here. We know if we from Inglewood, we represent Inglewood. We talk about Inglewood. We know that we support and we always make sure that we give back. At every point. And like I said, the biggest thing about Inglewood is our protection. Like, we don't play.
Yeah.
You know, that is the biggest part. So Corey's brand is really like our anthem. You know.
Yeah, he's definitely a staple for sure.
Yeah.
A staple for sure. So it's like just sticking with the whole Inglewood, you know, side of things. It like take me back to like young Natalie. You know, when was that first time where it's like, you know, you saw your neighborhood or your community and was like, you know, this is what I want to do to help. You know, what's that like kind of driving point into being you?
I want to say probably. Wow, that's a good question because I really don't know. It's always been like that. I mean, you can always, and as of right now, I can go back and still see there needs to be help. You know what I'm saying? But I think what really probably took me back was, like you said, young Natalie, and this is the early ages of my speaking engagements, and I was having a sister circle, which is a part of my non-for-profit Brown Girl CEO Network, where we provide resources, events, blogs, and any other, like I said, resources to female entrepreneurs. And we were having a sister circle, and it hit me that I had the first sister circle was on 63rd and Halsted at the Starbucks, and they have for one, I was right across the street from my very first office spacing.
Yeah.
And on 63rd and Halsted, there, like I said, the Starbucks had a room, a community room. Now, I never knew that Starbucks had community rooms, ever.
Yeah, this is my first time.
And, oh my God, I'm going to tell you why they have it. And I remember after, like, oh wow, I went and I said, yeah, I wanted to reserve some tables. She's like, we actually have a community room. I'm like, okay. Came, saw the room was outstanding. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, I'm having about 20 women come and we can reserve this whole room. And so I walked over to the Whole Foods on 63rd, which is in the same shopping area. And I noticed the Whole Foods had a community room.
Yeah. What the hell?
Yes, right? Don't worry, we can go over there. So I noticed the Whole Foods had a community room. And I was like, what? And this is the new area that they built called Inglewood Square. And I was just so like taken aback by these community rooms. And I remember asking the person at Whole Foods, telling the person, I didn't know you all had a community room. And she said, yes, if you have any business that's in Inglewood, you have to provide the community with a community room. And that spoke so loudly to me that whoever made that ordinance, I love you. Because at the end of the day, we have to give back to the community. If we have these big, huge organizations that's coming in, what are you doing to help us? And still to this day, that Inglewood Square Whole Foods is the cheapest Whole Foods in Illinois.
Sure.
And the reason why is because it's in a low and impoverished area, so they have to lower their prices to match the area that they're in. And for me, that was my point in saying that every event that I have has to be on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because if I ever dream to be this big, the only way I'm going to get this big is if my community uplifts me and if my community tells me that I deserve to be that big, because at the end of the day, this is their city.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's my city too, but if I'm saying that I'm representing Chicago, I'm from Chicago, and ain't nobody never see me, I'm always downtown or up north, they don't know me. They don't know me.
Because that's how I typically go too.
Exactly. So these are like artists that are well known. These are like, the community comes out, and you run like, I didn't know he had a huge fan base, because he was still, or she was still in the community doing what she needed to do or he needed to do. So I think that was my point in saying, like, I have to make sure that I do that. So my CEO boot camp was in Hyde Park on 53rd at the Post Exchange Center. That was my second office space. What other events that I had? All of my sister circles was at the Post Exchange or at that Starbucks. My business, the second area that I had for my business was obviously in the Post Exchange Center. So that just, like I said, I always thought of being and bringing it back to the community and seeing what Inglewood needed. And what they need is business development. They need entrepreneurship, access to these resources. They need someone who is going to say it's okay to be a part of these different types of organizations.
Yeah.
Someone who's going to step forward and represent them, because we have to speak for these voices who don't speak for themselves. They don't know that they get access to this until we tell them.
Yeah.
I made a funny meme on Instagram. It was from a reference from Power, and it was one of the cousins who had ended up telling on everybody and getting everybody in trouble. And he made the announcement of, like, I had to tell him what I know, right? He said that. And so I made a meme that said, because everybody is now on Clubhouse. Everybody is now, like, saying, oh, you should be dropping gems, but you should be charging for these gems, blah, blah, blah. And I made the post, like, I need to tell them what I know.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know this, and why? And the most important thing is I'm charging you a lot of money that you possibly don't have for something that's Googleable. You just don't know that you can Google this. You just don't know that this is what's in this building. You don't know that we hold these events every month, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
You didn't
sometimes
know.
they don't even, like, you can have a goal and not know, like, what you're actually looking for.
Exactly. And it can be right in your face. It can be free to you, but you're thinking that you got to spend money, and you don't. And so for me, when I find out free things that I Googled or that I feel like I didn't really work so hard for, I tell it to the public freely.
Yeah.
I have events for it freely. Like my very first event that I had about the cannabis, or start your own cannabis, was free. And you have people that's charging $200, $300, $500 to get into this industry, or even more to get into this industry. And I knew that if I targeted to Inglewood, if I targeted to my community, that I should have it for free. So, I think for me, what was my turning point in saying that we need to provide more to the community, or I need to driving around and looking at what we don't have, or talking to people and realizing what we don't have, was just me getting my foot wet into my own events that I wanted to have.
Yeah, I feel you definitely on that. So do you feel like that's something that's, like, lacking in terms of, people that come out of Chicago? I know you touched on it briefly, but like, people don't come back enough.
I think that
you think about, we got, not to cut you off, but it's like we have, like, big celebrities from Chicago.
Right.
So if I look at that, it's like, there's no way, no offense to anybody, that I could be a billionaire and the community that I come from looks like whatever.
Right.
So just, do you think, like, we have to do better as a collective Chicagoans of just getting back to our roots?
I think that that probably is what's missing. You know, I think that's really the bigger point. I mean, we have these organizations that these celebrities start, and they like, for instance, I'm just gonna use Kanye West for example.
Like the Donda House.
Yeah, the Donda House does. I mean, it does things, but it's not to the point of. For me, it's not to the point of what it should be.
Yeah.
And the money that could be poured into the Donda House, based off of Kanye West and his family, could be an amazing point for them to do so much more. Why isn't he talking about Donda House as much? You know, is it because he's not the CEO of the company? Is it because he, paid money already and he expecting them to do it?
Yeah.
What is it? And why is it like that? If he speaks so loudly for Chicago and talks about Chicago on a regular basis, then he knows firsthand what we don't have.
Yeah.
He knows because he has made it out, and he's still struggling with his childhood, with his upbringing. And I think that when you come back and you resolve these issues within yourself personally, you're able to come back and bring to the community what they can do.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that he's missing. Like I said, he has an organization that does something, but it shouldn't be to the point that they're losing money. It shouldn't be to the point that they're asking for money. It shouldn't be to the point that their programs are dwindling down. Like, no, if you know that this is what it takes to get to this level, if you know this is what they need, then give it to them.
Yeah.
So I think we just get caught up in thinking that our community doesn't need because they didn't do, that we missed the bigger point. Sometimes they didn't do because they don't know how to do.
Yeah.
Or they didn't know what to do. So for me, I just don't want to lose that sight, especially with all of my organizations that I have, and never think that, well, we shouldn't offer them free attorney resources because everybody knows they should hire an attorney in business. No, everybody doesn't know that. Nobody thinks that. Like, nobody. So they need to know that.
Yeah.
They need to know, look, yeah, there's LegalZoom. Yeah, there's Trademark Engine to trademark your business. But honestly, you need to talk to a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not a lawyer. We are a non-for-profit organization. We ain't giving you those tools. So let us bring somebody in here for you to tell you what you need to do.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where, like, I have people I can ask legal questions too, but for the longest I thought, like I said, I could kind of skate by without it.
Right.
You gotta be like super cautious, but it's like, hell no, when you get into a certain level of negotiations, contracts, like, you definitely need a set of eyes to look over that shit.
Oh, of course. And no non-for-profit organization can just look at it and tell you what to do, unless that individual you're talking to is a Esquire. Other than that, there's no reason why we shouldn't be providing these resources to our organization's audience. Like, there shouldn't be one reason why we shouldn't. So every event that I have that talks about business planning, business preparation, and business formation, we have to have a lawyer on deck. Have to, and that just comes from me knowing. But they wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
So, I think people who come from Chicago, we know what we're missing, but I think we think that Chicago is so nitty and gritty and needy and detrimental that we don't try to come back and help because, man, that's Chicago. They ain't gonna be doing it. They ain't even worried about it. They so worried about building people down, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They only so worried about that because we don't give back to them as it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's my biggest point in being here in Chicago. I can be anywhere, in the world, but God's chosen me to be here, and I need to realize, why I'm here.
Yeah.
And what I see and what I've made and what I've done, I need to make sure that they continuously know that and have access to it.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate you for still being there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've known you for like a few years now.
Yes.
But it's like, I'm always rock with you, like, regardless of whatever. And it's like, for the business owners and like people who trying to like get into it and learn about this type of stuff, it's like what you provide and like what you're giving to the community helps with a lot of the growing pains that
Mhm.
you know we didn't necessarily have to help with when we started businesses and thinking about
Right.
different spaces and locations and all the other moving pieces that goes into like ownership. But I just want to know more about like your growing pains. Like you started a business at point A and now you might be at point Z. Just kind of like what's the progression? Like what's some of the things you struggle with?
Yeah, some of the things that I struggle with in growing this business was people that there's a validation that comes with growth.
Yeah.
People have to know
Ooh,
that.
that's deep. That is deep.
Hey, okay, I'll say it again.
Please.
There's a validation that comes with growth. And so people really have to know that you have went through something to say that they're going to work with you or deal with you as a business, as well as you have to prove yourself. You have to study. You have to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, and everything. I'm not going to a dentist to fix a bullet wound.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have to know that, and as you can research your doctors and find out that there are schools that they went to, so you trust these people. So when it came to my growth, when you launch, I don't care. I don't put that much effort into a launch. I put effort into how I continue to move forward. Because no one's going to remember the launch. Unless they really are a fan of yours. Like, oh my God, I remember the first day you did it.
Yeah.
No, you don't. I do. Like you ain't going to remember that. You just going to remember the first time you saw it. And that might not even been the launch date. So I think like I said, the struggle of mine was that people had to validate me. And I struggle with that because I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I see. I know what I'm capable of. Why do I have to keep...
What do you mean by people who have to validate you?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there, Ronnie.
Right. I'm going to let you cook over here.
Right. Thank you. It's getting there. Give me 20 minutes. But, I knew what I was doing. I knew how to do it. And so why did someone have to come to me and tell me whether or not my product was good or not? Whether or not my services was great or not.
Yeah.
And the reason they had to was because I can't do this all by my own. And this goes back to the community. They have to validate that. They have to know and speak the truth. Reviews are huge.
Yeah.
So that's validation that you're doing something, that you're verified, that you're a legitimate business. All this stuff, and this is true. Anybody can be catfish. They can catfish a business any day. But it comes down to who's wearing it, who's shopping with you, who's buying from you, all of that. And so for me, I have to continuously prove myself to my community that I'm here for them and I'm doing this for them. And that comes down from my brand story of being from Inglewood, born and raised in West Inglewood, and bringing this back to the community so I know what's missing.
Yeah.
We're so used to gloss over influencers. We're so used to liars that when it actually comes to somebody who really cares, it's sometimes seen a little standoffish.
Yeah.
So I had to get that validation, and that bothered me so much because they're so used to the fluff.
Yeah.
And that they don't react immediately when I tell them there's something going on. I have to send about 6 posts before they make that purchase. The attention span has really, really, really decreased in my opinion. They'll say, oh, you got 7 minutes. Now you got 7 minutes per 6 posts before they actually be like, okay, I'm going to deal with you. It's a longer track record than that. And so I think that was and still is my biggest struggle. Dealing with the CBD industry. Oh, man. They think, and most people are so afraid to deal with CBD, hemp, marijuana, all these other different things because of what the community has told them, because of what they've seen their family go through, the destruction with weed, what they've seen who got arrested with for having weed, their experience with weed and the law enforcement. Our as far as blacks, our history with marijuana is terrible. terrible. Talk about broken families.
Yeah.
Talk about dads away, gone for years for a plant. So I have to continue to validate that. And then on top of that, they think because I'm in this industry that I made it and I don't want to hear anything else from it. Oh, it's all about money.
Yeah.
And it's not that. It's all about education. You can get to the same point that I'm getting to if you listen to me and listen to my instruction. And I think that's the hardest part about humans because we have free will.
Yeah.
We don't have to listen. We don't have to we don't have to we don't have to do anything. And constantly we have to make sure that as a business, as a brand, as an influencer, that we're getting validated by our audience, that they trust what we're saying, that we're giving them the right tools to succeed. And so I struggle with that because, for one, I'm so in tune with who I am and what I am and where I come from that I feel I don't have to validate you. Like, I know I'm good, but they don't know that I'm good. And so I have to meet them where they're at. And for me, that's hard. You know, so I would say that's probably my biggest bottleneck in my business is that, you know I know I can do this. I know how to do this. And I think as a black community, especially the Inglewood and Chicago community, we don't believe nobody. Trust nobody. Like, that's embedded in us. So I think that's the hardest thing to kind of get past is telling people who are hard-headed and don't want to listen that they should listen. So
how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I overcome it by, like I said, with telling my brand story. Things like this. I'm sure they'll now want to listen like, dang, Natalie came from this, or listen to this, help me, or whatever. Being able to tell my brand story and where I'm coming from. Being able to vocalize my flaws. Because a lot of times we don't do that. We don't inform people of what's really going on with us, so they can't really tell whether or not we did the work and the hardship of getting to this point. So those are things that I do often. I have no problem talking about my mental health. I have no problem talking about my downfalls as an entrepreneur. I have no problem talking about what's really going on with me. And so in hopes of doing that, you know, they understand that I'm coming from a realistic point of view. Other ways I get past that is realizing who my target audience is. You know, it's people that are just like me. It's people that are, if taking everything away, like my business and everything, when you look at a regular shopper, especially, like I said, I keep saying this, a Chicago person, we looking at every single thing. We dissecting everything. We don't even trust the people that's supposed to be protecting us, which is obviously the police. You know what I'm saying? We don't trust the police. We go head in hand with the police. Fearless. Like, that's the type of people that when you look at Chicago, we are made from a different cloth.
Yeah, we definitely cut different.
Cut different. We don't take nothing from nobody. And I'm one of those people. I am from my city. I am. So for me, I have to be able to look at my target audience because I'm in a certain city and figure out where can I meet them at. Do I have to tell it from an authoritarian style? Do I have to tell it from a softer style? Exactly. Am I the motivator? Am I the encourager? Am I the mother today? You know, really figuring out my archetype for my brand, and figuring out what tone of voice do I need to use to get this message across. And so there's a lot of experimentation when it comes to my tone for my brand and what I do, the type of events that I have, that a lot of strategy goes into play on that, and a lot of brain work goes into play to make it a success. So that's how I kind of really get over it. But, you know, it's a work in progress. I'm still working on it.
Definitely. Nah, because I be seeing your posts and they definitely read different sometimes. But all of them hit, especially the ones I'm like, she definitely popping her shit right now. like she definitely going in on it. Like, she don't give a fuck. Like, I like that. And everything you just talked about, like, it speaks to, you know, like not only you, but just people in general, and like people should like strive to be at a certain like level of like mental like fortitude when it comes to
Right.
business, and that's why mental health is like so important because you could have a great idea, but it's like if you're not mentally equipped to do what it takes to get there, or you know go through the ups and downs of like what do I have to be today, like you spoke of, it's like
Yeah. Oh, this was my first office was at this bank.
this bank here. Hey.
And then that Starbucks was where the sister circle was at. And then that's obviously the Whole Foods that's right there.
They still got those there?
Yeah. They can't break that down. That's definitely still there.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
Definitely still there. They can't tear that down at all. I think that's a community ordinance, I think. I'm not sure. They said something like that.
I'm sure they better. We need that up there, so I might pull up there.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it's like we talked about like motivations too. I think this is probably like a question I've never like got to ask you, at least like not in person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what motivates you, like outside of you know where you come from in a community. Like what's that? Like you know what? I can't stop getting up today. I'm working 24 hours. like what's that thing for you?
Wow, you said I can't mention my community. Oh man.
I mean, we know how you feel about the community. You know what I'm saying?
Man, because it's my city. You know, there's nobody that really, in the branding aspect, puts on for their city like this. You know, does things for their city. I wish COVID never happened because I would be booming right now for the events. Although I did still have events, you know,
This is
during
one of
COVID.
the posts you make in ICU. Look, man, I wish COVID never happened. Like, yep, she popping her shit right now.
Cause I would be, man, it was gonna be nasty in 2020. Like I had all these events that was scheduled, and then obviously COVID hit. So, but I would say what motivates me,
We'll
is
get back to COVID after this.
I will be back. But what motivates me time over time is this vision that I see for myself, this goal that I see for myself being this type of person that I want to be. Like I'm not satisfied until I know I'm on a beach and all my businesses are running and I have CEOs for all of my businesses.
Exactly.
The goal is not for me to be the CEO for the rest of my life. The goal is for me to be the founder. I want to sell some of these businesses.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep them for the rest of my life.
You want to start delegating.
Exactly. I want people to acquire this business, take it and run it. Or I want to remove myself as a CEO and hire somebody to be the CEO. At that point, for me, I know that I talked my shit and I did my shit.
Yeah.
So my focus right now and continuously for the next few years is to keep my income consistent. And if I keep my income consistent and it stays at this specific level, then I know that I have worked myself off to the point that my business can now be valuated and sold.
Yeah.
And that's so important for me. The person that I listen to kind of sort of on a regular is Courtney Adeleye, who is the founder of The Main Choice. And people were mad at her for selling her business. And I never understood. I'm like, why are y'all mad at her? For that's her business.
Right.
You know, and she made the statement on social media and nobody understood that, and everybody was like, what the heck was that about, blah, blah, blah. And she told them that she sold her business. And the reason why she sold her business was because she no longer needed to be the CEO. She wanted to be the founder. And the importance of getting your business valuated and sold, and knowing that is because you don't never want to just sit there the rest of your life grinding.
Yeah.
So I think what motivates me the most is that I know I can get to that point, and it's easy to get to that point. It's not hard. There's nothing that's difficult to do to be a CEO or to remove yourself as a CEO. It's simple. It's easy. I've sold a trademark before, so I know it's easy to sell a business. But the manner and the money that I want from my business is to walk away and say I've done it, that's where I got to get myself at. And that starts with still making sure I'm grinding, I'm working hard to do so. So I think that's one of the things that really, really motivates me is I have a different vision and a different goal for myself, and I know I can see that. So every day I wake up at 3, 4 in the morning. 3, 4 in the morning, I either work out, do yoga, or I sit and I meditate and I think on business ideas and what I can do differently in my business. You know, I go to work, I do my work, I do my business consultations, all that stuff at the office, working, you know, and at night I bring it all back and think about it again.
Yeah, like
Sleep
reflection.
on it, wake up, do it again. And right now, that's just how it is. And I know it's going to be like that for the next few years until I get out of this mindset, until I get into this vision that I see for myself. So I think that's really what wakes me up every single day is that goal.
Damn. That's deep. That's deep. Yeah. I mean, I just love, like, how the fact that it's, like, not, I mean, we all in business, but it's, like, I just love, like, how everything comes back to, like, the community and where you're from. And I definitely think when you get to the point where you, like, actually sell the business, like, people gonna be upset. like not because you sold it, but it's, like, what you represent, like, for the community. It's
they
like,
ain't gonna see me.
yeah, it's
they
like,
gonna
damn.
see somebody else.
They
Yeah.
like, damn, no more that. Like, what's going on? Like, how she gonna do us like that? So I think, but I think it speaks to like the rapport and the love that you accumulated throughout your process.
I mean, but when you work so hard to build something, you should want to do that.
Yeah.
You should want to, if somebody is willing to take it and make it even greater than what you could do, you should love to do that.
Facts.
There's nothing wrong with that. You think about the biggest people who currently right now are the CEOs of companies. You know what I'm saying? Like Jeff Bezos. He's still right now the CEO and the founder. I'm pretty sure in the next few years he ain't gonna be the CEO. Can guarantee you of that. He's gonna remove himself. Right now he's still grinding. Right now there's still new avenues in his business that he wants to work on. But I can guarantee you, in the next few years, he gonna be on an island.
Oh no,
He's gonna be on an island, done, finished. Somebody else is gonna be the CEO. We done with it. Like, that's just how it is. It's gonna be.
Yeah.
My goal is to be like Steve Jobs. I'm dead and gone, and it's still driving money.
Facts.
Like, ain't nothing. I have built my business so tight, my CEOs, my CFOs, my CMOs so tight that I don't even have to be here, like, physically, and you know what to do.
Exactly.
And it's not even going to kaput.
It's a good book that I've read. It's called Making Money is Killing My Business. But the whole premise of the book is, it's like, they encourage you to, like, set a date. Like, by December 31st, 2022, like, I want to be able to hand my business off to a CEO or somebody I can delegate it to, and then, be done. Just collect, people call me just in case of emergencies and stuff like that. It's a good read, so check it out.
Yeah, that's a good read to read, because I'll definitely look into that, because that's how I feel with the CBD business. Some white man gonna buy this.
Oh, hell yeah. You gonna cash you out.
I wake up every day and say that, and I said, well, what is Ned going to look forward to? Like, that's his name.
Ned.
In my head, it's a Ned. But what is Ned gonna want me to do? What is Ned gonna do? How does he want me to look? And so we need to have this. We need to have that. He's gonna want to check this. Our numbers have to look good. My taxes got to look good. I got to set myself up for that date that he marries my business.
Yeah.
And he loves it. And everything is correct. I'm not leaving. I'll be the founder. I'll be on the board. But you can have it. Go ahead, pay for it. So I think, that's a really good book that I should probably read and check in on. So I'll look into that.
I got the audio book. I should see if I can share it with you so you don't have to pay for it.
Oh, it's an audio book.
No, I mean, you can get the physical copy too.
No, I need audio. That's fancy.
I
That's
know.
right up my alley.
See, I like the physical because I like to like write in the book, take notes and all of that.
See, I'm on the go. I need to listen.
Yeah, I got the audio book because during the summer I was doing a lot of running, so it was like instead of just like listening to the same playlist, music over and over, like let me listen to a book. But no, that definitely makes sense, and shit, that's the goal for sure.
Yep.
And it's like one more thing. It's like I really want like we touched on COVID for a second too. How did COVID like really impact like your business?
Who? For it didn't really do too much damage. For one, because I was already virtually meeting my clients, that it didn't really take off of that. On top of that, my clientele increased with my consulting and media agency because now they're like, whoa, this is something new. What do I do? And they need a business consultant to tell them and break that down. So on top of that, we did get grants and things like that from the government to continue to still move forward. So I was blessed to have that. And then as well as for EndoHigh, we increased because with CBD, those who know, it helps with anxiety, depression, also with ailments of pain and things like that. So high anxiety was at the top of COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody didn't know what was going on. And so when we started making posts about the health benefits and what it could get rid of and things like that, that's when we hit 10K in April.
Damn.
Well, from March to April, we were doing like 10K each month. And it was to a point that we had 30 orders that came in like 5 days. That it was just like crazy, the amount. And so COVID hasn't really done terrible for those two businesses. But for my non-for-profit and for my events that I do that I make a lot of money off of, yes, it has definitely hit. Because we can't meet.
Yeah.
And for Brown Girl CEO Network, I made the decision and I told my board, I do not ever want to put my women in a place where they can't see me. Because I know what it does to be able to see and touch somebody and talk to somebody. And they've been so used to that. We embodied that type of persona for so many years. I'm not getting on a Zoom call with them.
Yeah.
I'm not getting on a phone call to talk to them about business. They need tangible items. They need people in front of them to tell them what to do. It will be a disservice to them to have the CEO boot camp live, like virtual.
Yeah.
Like, no. That's not how you learn business, like, not for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we could talk about having a virtual and live in-person event, but we're not going to talk about just one live. Like, I know my audience. I know them to a T. And so I made the decision to not do any live events because I knew what I had to give to them was bigger than COVID, was bigger than just going with the whoa, what everybody else was saying. There's people who did live events and do well. That's still charged. That's great. That's cool. Whatever. I just don't want to deal with it because people be multitasking on Zoom. You know, they ain't listening. On Clubhouse, you everywhere else, and then you know, sometimes getting in on the gym. I didn't want that. This is people who sat and had their time, who studied, went to school, did whatever to get their information for business and or whatever. I don't want you disrespecting their time, and I don't want you to feel like we disrespected your time either. So, you know, I think COVID really made me a stronger entrepreneur in saying no to what we're not going to do, and yes to things that we can try differently. Soft clap.
No, I'm saying because COVID hit a lot of people, like a lot of businesses hard. Like I spoke to you about some of my corporate clients, like big, massive, like furloughs and layoffs and shit. So it's like COVID hit damn near everybody hard. So it's like nice to hear that, like have a good story come from. One business increase, you know, other one maybe not. But can we touch on your non-for-profit? You just want to give a plug on like what it's about real quick?
Yeah, Brown Girl CEO Network is a non-for-profit organization for female entrepreneurs and professional It's a really female professional association. So we have blogs, podcasts, events, really just events mainly. events and blogs and the podcast centered around providing them with resources to know how to grow and maintain a profitable business. So, Brown Girl CEO Network was not the first name for it. It was Business Babe Army. That was the first.
I remember that one.
Yes, that was the first name for it, and I actually sold that. And the reason why I sold it was because it was two people that was named similar to what I was named, and so in order to get past their lawsuit, one of them wanted to buy it up off me, and so I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, damn, I put all this blood, sweat, tears into this damn thing. Why am I selling it? And then somebody can use the name, but at that time I had already changed the Instagram and all that to Brown Girl CEO Network.
Yeah.
I just never finished the paperwork to say I'm dissolving this business, and I'm glad I didn't because I made money off of it after I got done with it. But it was Business Babe Army because that was my first one into breaking down generational stereotypes that women cannot be CEOs. And so we can still look great, still look fierce, and come in and run a business as it is. And we are a group of women who understand that and know that. But Brown Girl CEO Network came because I noticed there was a lack thereof. There was so many white female empowerment organizations, but there wasn't one specifically for us to tell us what to do as brown and black women. And why wasn't that? And so me walking into these different rooms and I'm seeing like they love Business Babe Army and they think that we're white owned. No. We're black owned, and a lot of our product and a lot of our content is centered around black and brown women and their success with that. So I changed the name. And so when I sold it, I was really like, dang, I need a day or two to think about this because everybody knows me from this name. My SEO, if you Google it to this day, still pops up my face. Even if that lady bought it, like it's still something that's like everybody knows me for. Yeah. And I had to, as we mentioned just before, like right when you're thinking that you're supposed to remain in the CEO position, like you have to remove yourself. Yeah. There's nothing wrong. I still own the ownerships to that name. I still own the creations to that name, but I'm not running that business. I'm not making any money off of it or whatever because I sold that aspect of it. But if I wanted to, I could. I could still make money off that name. Yeah. That's written in the contract, you know. But for me, I think to plug my organization would not be enough to just at least give the background of it, you know. But when I finally sold it, I was so happy to bring that to my audience and tell my audience why I sold it and why Brown Girl CEO Network is now in fruition.
Was that your first time selling, like making the transaction like that?
That was my first time having someone doing an acquisition for my business, yes. And it was all through lawyers, contracts, different stuff like that we had to go through. I had to evaluate my business, and they asked me obviously for the number, if this is what it's valued at, then this is how much they're willing to pay. And so it was at a point where it was two people trying to buy it so they can win the lawsuit. And I just went with a higher ticket, you know. Yeah. I just went with the higher ticket because I felt like they understood me a little bit more. And on top of that, she was my sorority sister, Ski-Wee, okay? And I was like, she black, she gonna take it to the limit that I want her to, and I know she is. And she was so grateful that I allow for her to buy that up off me so she can push forward with her blog and everything like that. So it was just like a really warm feeling to know that as we transition into Brown Girl CEO Network, we were able to help another brown and black woman be able to start her own business. So
that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
All right, Matt, it's been a real one. You want to give a plug? Where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on all social media networks, okay? The Natalie Rochelle with 2 E's. So that's where you can find me at. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that.
All right, bet.
Yeah.
All right, it's been real. Thanks, Natalie.
You're welcome.
Love having you.
Thank you, guys.
Peace. All right, let me get out.